Welcome to another playthrough of Arkham Horror the card game. Today we play with Skids O'Toole against the Gathering on Expert difficulty. The Expert difficulty is displayed by the Chaos tokens that are put into the Chaos bag and on the scenario card, which increases the effects on the Chaos marker with symbols. So in this case we have a -2 for the skull token, and if we fail we have to search the encounter, discard pile and deck for a ghoul enemy. For the cultist marker we have to reveal another token, and if we fail we take 2 horror. And the third one, I don't know its name, it gives us -4 to our skill value, and if there's a ghoul enemy at our location we take 1 damage, 1 horror. And the chaos markers is 1 0, 2 -1, 2 -2, 2 times -3, 2 times -4, 1 -5, -6, -8, 2 skull icons, 1 cultist icon, 1 elder sign, 1 auto fail, and whatever this sign is. So we first of all put the chaos marker into our chaos bag. Okay, next the scenario is set up so far. We start the game in the study. The study comes into play with 2 clues per investigator, and it has a shroud value of 2. We are using Skids O'Toole, and we are using only cards from the core set. And for this challenge we are restricting us playing only with rogue and neutral cards. So we give a quick look to the deck. We have Skids signature cards. Then we have a basic weakness. In this case we picked the Mob Enforcer, as it is the most thematic weakness card under the weakness cards from the core set. Then we have 2 copies of Opportunist, 2 backstabs, 2 times elusive, 2 sneak attacks, 2 pickpocketing, burglary, hard knocks, Leo de Luca, switchblade. And then we come to the neutral cards. We have 2 flashlights, 2 emergency caches, and the rest are skill cards. Okay, so this would make up our deck. Again, we restricted us to play only with rogue cards. Next we can shuffle the decks and start the game. Starting with the player deck. Okay, next we can shuffle the encounter deck. Okay, then we would have prepared everything so far. So the first act card is, or we can advance in the first card in the act if we collect 2 clues, and the gender deck advances when we have 3 doom in play. We will now start our starting hand, consisting of 5 cards, 2, 4, 5, and we are looking for Leo de Luca or a flashlight. As we have none of those cards, we will just take a mulligan. This we can do by putting the drawn cards aside and draw 5 new cards from the top of our deck, which is then our final hand. We can only take a single mulligan, or we found the flashlight with our last card draw. Perfect, so we shuffle the set aside cards back into our deck. Unfortunately, we did not find Leo de Luca. However, we can move on with this hand. Okay, so in the first round we will skip the mirrors phase. 1 second, we have this small card that tells us the round sequence, and here we can see in the first turn or first round we skip the mythos phase and go straight into the investigation phase. Okay, and for our first action we will play the flashlight. The flashlight is an asset that costs 2 resources and takes up to 1 hand slot. In total we have 2 free hand slots available. The flashlight comes into play with 3 supplies. As an action we can spend 1 supply to investigate, and the location that we are investigating gets -2 to the short value. So we pay our 2 resources, 1, 2, and put free supply onto the flashlight. Next we will play the switchblade. This is also an asset. This asset costs 1 resource and has the fast keyword, which means it does not take one of our action to play this card. We can play it in any player window, and the switchblade has the following fight action. If you succeed by 2 or more, this attack deals +1 damage. And this would be our second hand slot. We can now we cannot play any more assets that takes up to a hand slot. Okay, we have 2 actions left, and for them we will just use our flashlight for our second action and spend 1 supply to investigate. So the shroud value is reduced to 0 and we have an intellect of 3. So we have a base willpower of 2, an intellect of 3, a combat value of 3 and an agility of 4. And we have a fast action on Skids. During our turn we can spend 2 resources to take an additional action, and the elder sign increases the skill test by a +2. If you succeed, gain 2 resources. So we now test 3 against 0, and we will not commit any cards to the skill test. We will just draw a chaos token from the back. Okay, and we have drawn a -4. So this would reduce our intellect to 0, because none of the values can be reduced by more than 0. It would actually be -1, but it gets rounded up to 0, and the short value of the study is 0 as we use the flashlight, and if we have equal to or higher skill value, then the difficulty of the test we succeed, and in this case we would be successful as we have 0 against 0, and we get a clue. So the flashlight is very powerful on locations with short values of 2 or less. And we will investigate one more time with our third action, again with the flashlight. And I just realized that we didn't pay the resource for the switchblade. We should only have 2 resources left. Yeah, we had 5. We played 2 cards with total cost of 3, so we have 2 resources left. And yeah, now we will perform our third action, investigating again with an intellect of 3 against a shroud value of 0. Okay, and we have drawn a -2, and again the skill test is successful. We are at 1 against 0, and we get to collect another clue. So we would now have the 2 clues that are required to advance, but we will first of all stay in the study until we draw an enemy that we cannot defeat. So we took our 3 actions, our turn ends. So the investigation phase now ends, and we move on to the enemy phase. As there are currently no enemies in play, we can also skip the enemy phase and we move straight to the upkeep phase, where we reset all actions, ready all exhausted cards, and each investigator gets to draw 1 card and gain 1 resource. So first of all, we ready all of our cards. Then we are allowed to draw a card and gain a resource. Okay, so the upkeep phase would be also been done. We now go to the next round, starting with the Mythos phase. We place 1 Doom on the agenda and draw 1 encounter card from the top of the encounter deck. So first of all, we place 1 Doom. We have currently 1 out of 3 in play, and we draw 1 encounter card, which is a swarm of rats. The rats have a combat value of 1, hit points of 1, and the agility of 3, and the hunter keyword. And when they attack, they deal 1 damage. Okay, as this is a smaller enemy, we could try to fight that enemy. We have a combat value of 3, that means we have already an advantage of +2, and we may just try for our first action. We will try to attack the swarm of rats without committing any cards. So we just draw a chaos marker from the back. Okay, let's pull this one. We have drawn a -1, which is perfect. This reduces our combat value to 2, and we are still 1 up. So the test was successful. We deal 1 damage whenever we attack. And this is enough to defeat the swarm of rats and put them in the discard pile. Okay, so we have 2 more actions for our turn. And for the second action, we can draw a card. Okay. And for the third action, maybe we play Hard Knocks. So this is also an asset that costs 2 and does not take any slots. So we can, during a player window, while we are fighting or trying to evade an enemy, we can increase our value by the amount of resources we have spent, and we can spend as many resources as we wish. So we place this card up here or down here, okay, and we pay our 2 resources. We have one more action left, and with that we will just take a resource and end our turn. Okay, our turn would end, so we go straight to the upkeep phase as there are no enemies in play. We ready all cards, draw a card and gain a resource. Then in the Mythos phase we will place 1 Doom token on the agenda and draw 1 encounter card. Okay, we have drawn Ancient Evils, so this card's revelation effect says that we have to place 1 Doom on the current agenda, and this effect can cause the current agenda to advance. Okay, in this case it does, so we place the 3rd Doom token on the agenda, so the first card on the agenda deck advances. In this case we look at the back side of the card and read the effect. So now each investigator must decide, and we have to choose one. Either each investigator discards 1 card at random from their hand, or the lead investigator takes 2 horror. And in this case we will discard a random card from our hand, and the 2nd card in the agenda deck advances when 7 Doom is in play. Okay, so we have 5 cards in hand. We will roll a dice. This would be number 1, this would be number 5. Okay, we have a 4, so we have to discard the burglary. And now we can move on with the investigation phase. Okay. For our first action we will draw a card. Okay, we have Unexpected Courage and for the remaining 2 actions we just take a resource and end our turn. So in total we take 2 resources, 1, 2, and end our turn. Move straight up to the upkeep phase, ready all cards, draw a card and gain a resource. Then we move on to the Mythos phase. We place 1 Doom on the agenda and draw 1 encounter card. And we have drawn Grasping Hands. So this card's revelation effect says that we have to test our agility with a difficulty of 3, and for each point you fail by you take 1 damage. We have an agility of 4, testing against 3, which means we have already an advantage of +1. However, we will commit pickpocketing to the skill test to increase our agility by +1. So this brings us up to 5. We test against 3, which means we have an advantage of +2. And the reason we are doing this is to avoid the chaos marker with the skull icon, because if we fail we have to draw a ghoul enemy, and we try to avoid that. In this case we have drawn a -5, okay, which brings us to 0, so the test fails by 3 and we have to take 3 damage. And now we can continue with the investigation phase. For our first action, we will play the emergency cache. This is an event, so it tells us that we gain free resources and it costs 0, so we place it into our discard pile for our first action, and we can take free resources. For our second action, we will draw a card, and we have perception. Okay, 2, 4, 5 cards in hand, 1 action left. Then with our final action, we will take 1 more resource and end our turn. Go to the upkeep phase, ready all cards, then draw a card and gain a resource. Okay, we continue with the Mythos phase. We place 1 doom on the agenda. We have 2 out of 7 and draw an encounter card. Okay, now we have drawn the eye school, and that's one reason why we stay in the study. So we drew the eye school, however the eye school has a spawn location which he has to meet in order to be able to be put into play, and the seller is currently not in play, so we are immediately allowed to discard this card, and this is quite a strong enemy. And when you play the gathering on expert difficulty, I suggest you stay as long as possible in the study so you can discard enemies like the icy ghoul or the flesh eater. And if you draw any other nasty enemies, you can advance, and when you advance in the act, you can remove any enemy in the study, but we will see that later. So we were lucky with the icy ghoul draw, so we had 1 turn in which we do not have to deal with encounter cards, and now we can continue with the investigation phase. So our hand card limit is 8. We have already 2, 4, 6 cards in hand, but we will draw 1 more card for our first action in this round, and we drew sneak attack. And for the other two actions, we will just take a resource and end our turn. So we do our preparation for the end game, and our turn ends. We again go straight to the upkeep phase, ready all cards, draw a card and gain a resource. Next, in the Mythos phase, we place 1 doom on the agenda and draw 1 encounter card. This time we have Dissonant Voices, so this card says put Dissonant Voices into play in your threat area. You cannot play assets or events. At the end of the round, discard Dissonant Voices. Okay, so this turn we cannot play any events or assets from our hand, and we have currently 2, 4, 8, 6 cards in hand, and we will use, as we cannot play any cards, we will just take 3 resources and end our turn. So 1, 2, 3, end our turn, go to the upkeep phase, ready all cards, draw a card and gain a resource. Then at the end of the round we can discard Dissonant Voices. In the Mythos phase we place a Doom token on the agenda and draw 1 encounter card. Okay, we have Rotting Remains. Here we have to test our willpower against a difficulty of 3, and for each point we fail by we take 1 horror. We have a willpower of 2, and we could increase our willpower by +2 using guts. However, we have 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, we have 9 cards in hand, so last turn I had to discard 1 card from our hand, as our hand size is only 8. So in this case we can discard elusive, or maybe, oh, okay, in this case we could discard manual dexterity. And now we have to test, and we can, we can commit guts, but this will not be enough, so or maybe we do just because our hand size is already pretty full, so we'll just add guts to the skill test. It increases our willpower by +2, and if this test is successful, we are allowed to draw a card. So this card is the type of the card is a skill, and the effect on the card is only been activated when this card is committed to a skill test. So we now have a willpower of 4 testing against 3, which means we have an advantage of +1. And we have drawn, oh, we have the skull token. Okay, we have a -2, so it means the test fails by 1, and we now have to search the encounter deck and discard pile for a ghoul enemy and draw it. And in this case we will cheat and draw the icy ghoul, which we just discarded, and he will again be discarded as his spawn location is still not in play. So we would choose to take the icy ghoul. As you can see here, it says we can pick one ghoul enemy from the encounter deck and discard pile and draw it. So it does not tell us to put it in play, engage with us, we just draw it. And when we draw it, we have to follow the spawn requirements, and the seller is still not in play, so we can discard the icy ghoul again and avoid having to deal with him or to deal with the skull token. Now to the results, we were at 4, -2 brings us down to 2, so the test fails by 1, and we have to take 1 horror. Then the mythos phase ends, and we can continue with the investigation phase. Okay, 2, 4, 2, 4, 6, 7. For our first action, we will draw a card. Okay, we have emergency cache. For our second action, we will play emergency cache. We have seen this card before, so we just get 3 resources for playing that card. 1, 2, 3. Then we'll take another resource with our final action and end our turn. Go straight to the upkeep phase, ready all cards, draw a card. Okay, we have drawn our weakness, which is the mob enforcer. He has the keywords prey and hunter, and the following action on him: we can spend 4 resources to parlay, discard the mob enforcer. Alternatively, we can advance in the study, but we'll see. Okay, we have drawn our card and we gain 1 resource. Then we have to check our hand size. We have 2, 4, 6, 7 cards in hand. We continue with the mythos phase. We place 1 doom on the agenda and draw 1 encounter card. And we have a ghoul minion. So the ghoul minion has a fight value of 2, hit points of 2, and agility of 2. And as we have 2 enemies in play, we will just advance in the act deck by spending 2 clues, and we can do this at it is a free action we can do at any player window. So we do this before our turn starts, and then we read the back of the first act card. So here it tells us to put into play the set aside hallway, cellar, attic and parlor. Discard each enemy in the study. Place each investigator in the hallway and remove the study from the game. So first of all, we discard each enemy in the study. The mob enforcer comes into our discard pile, and the ghoul minion can be placed into the discard pile. Then we remove the study from the game, and each investigator starts in the hallway. Then we are instructed to put in the attic, the cellar and the parlor into play. And whenever a new location is put in play, it is always put into play with the locked side, which you can identify by this symbol. If you turn around the card, this symbol will not be on the card. So this is the locked side of the cellar. Then you have here some flavor text. This is the location symbol, and this is where you can move from this location. So in this case, all the new locations are connected to the hallway because they have the matching symbol. So we can walk from the hallway to the attic, from the attic to the back to the hallway, or we can move downstairs to the cellar. And we could also move to the parlor, but it is currently blocked by a barrier. As the card text tells us, the entrance to the parlor is blocked by a darkly growing, unfathomable barrier. You cannot move into the parlor. So right now we can only move to the cellar and to the attic. And the second card we can advance in the second card of the act deck when we have collected 3 clues per investigator, and we have to be in the hallway to spend those. So now we need 3. Okay. So we advance to get rid of the enemies, and we can now move on with the investigation phase. We have 7 cards in hand. For our first action, we will move to the attic. So we spend 1 action here. Now we can turn the attic to the revealed side and see that the attic has a shroud value of 1 and comes into play with 2 clues per investigator, and has the following forced effect: after you enter the attic, take 1 horror. And victory 1 means when there are no clues after the game ends, then you get to get 1 victory point, which you can use for scenarios to buy stronger cards. So we put the 2 clues onto the location, and we have 2 more actions left. For the second action, we will investigate by using our flashlight. We will spend the last supply on it to reduce the shroud value to 0, and we test with an intellect of 3. Okay, and we have drawn. Unser Elder Sign. Wonderful. So the Elder Sign's effect is +2, and if you succeed, you gain 2 resources. This is one of the best Elder Sign tokens. So we get 2 resources and the clue. Perfect. Okay, then we have 1 more action left, and we will use that to play our second copy of the flashlight. So we'll have to discard one before we can play the other. So we discard the empty one and put into play the second copy. For that we have to pay 2 resources, which we just gained, 1, 2. And the card comes into play with 3 supplies. Okay, so this officially ends our turn. We ready all cards. Draw a card. Oh, we have Leo De Luca. And we gain 1 resource. Then we move to the Mythos phase. We have currently 5 out of 7. Now 6 out of 7 Doom in play. And we will draw 1 encounter card. Okay, we have drawn Crypt Chill. The revelation effect tells us to test our willpower by 4. If you fail, choose and discard 1 asset you control. If you cannot, take 2 damage instead. That's the reason why we played the Switchblade. If we fail, we can now just discard our Switchblade. Hopefully we do not draw the Skull token. Okay, and we have drawn again our Elder Sign. Wow, this is unbelievable. And the test even passes. We had a willpower of 2. It gets increased by +2, so we are at 4. So it means the test is successful and we gain another 2 resources. This is so awesome. Great. I have to shuffle it a bit more. Didn't expect to draw the Elder Sign back to back, but it definitely helps. We have collected a bunch of resources. I feel very rich with Skids, which is wonderful. Okay, back to the investigation phase. So we will investigate with our first action, spending 1 supply from our new flashlight, reducing the shroud value by 2. So we test 3 against 0. Let's see what we draw. And we have drawn a -2. Okay, perfect. So the test was successful and we discover 1 more clue. Okay, we have 2 more actions left. We could play Leo to gain 1 more action, but I don't know how much worth he is at this stage of the game. But he can also soak up some damage, so maybe it's a good idea to spend 6 resources. Yeah, I think so. I mean, we drew our Elder Sign twice, so we should have the resources. So we will bring Leo De Luca into play. This symbol shows that he is a unique ally, so he can only be in play. Only 1 copy of him can be in play throughout all players. He costs 6 resources, is an ally, takes up to 1 ally slot, and as long as Leo is in play, we get 1 additional action during our turn, and we can place up to 2 horror and 2 damage on him. So we will place him next to us. This would be our second action. And we pay 6 resources. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and as long as he is in play, we get 1 more action during our turn. So now we have 4 actions. 2, 4, 6. So with our third action, we will now move back to the hallway. And I just realized that I didn't take the horror from the attic, because we took 1 horror from remaining rods previously. We have to take 1 more, which we place on Skids tool. Then we have 1 more action left. We have 2, 4, 6 cards in hand. For our third action, we will draw a card. And we have another copy of Leo De Luca. Then our turn ends. we go straight to the upkeep phase. As there are no enemies in play, we ready all cards. Then we draw a card. We have a 2, 4, 6, 8 cards in hand, which is fine. And we get to collect one more resource. 2, 4, 6. Okay, so now we have we place our 7th Doom onto the agenda, so the agenda card advances. And in this case, the back side of the card instructs us to shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a ghoul enemy is discarded. The lead investigator draws that enemy. Okay, before we do that, we give a quick look onto the third card on the agenda deck. Here we have 2 forced effects, so we lose when we reach 10 Doom in play, and we have 2 forced effects. The first one says that at the end of the enemy phase, each unengaged ghoul enemy moves 1 location towards the parlor, and the second one reads, at the end of the round, place 1 Doom on this agenda for each ghoul enemy in the hallway or in the parlor. Okay, now we can perform the effect on the second agenda card. So we shuffle the encounter discard pile back into the encounter deck and discard cards until we discard a ghoul enemy. Okay, that should be enough. So this is not a ghoul enemy. There we have one. Okay. So we have a ghoul minion as seen before. We put him into play, engaged with us. And we have to draw 1 more encounter card during the Mythos phase. And we have drawn the Flesh Eater. This card we see the first time. He has also a spawn location, which is the attic, so he will not be engaged with us immediately. He has a combat value of 4, 4 hit points, and agility of 1. So we will place him next to the attic, and the enemy who is engaged with us, we have too many resources. So the Flesh Eater enters the play in the attic. He just arrived when we left. Thanks for that. Maybe he was scared of us. And the ghoul minion is engaged with us in the hallway. The problem with those 2 ghoul enemies is that they will very quickly advance the agenda deck. However, we could try to defeat the ghoul minion to reduce that. We still have the switchblade in play, and if we succeed by 2 or more, we even deal +1 damage. However, our combat value is 1, and the ghoul minion has a combat value of 2, which means we have just a advantage of +1. I don't know if it is worth it. We could also ignore the ghoul minion, move to the cellar, and investigate, draw cards. Yeah, not quite sure what we should do here. I mean, 1, 2, 3. It's kind of risky. You know, we'll just try to evade the ghoul minion. And we should have 2 rounds. Yeah, both options are risky. We could also take the ghoul minion to the cellar, engaged with us. Okay. If we fight, we have 3, 6. Either way, we have to commit some resources. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And okay. Okay, maybe. Okay, let's try to attack the ghoul minion. So for our first action, we will use the switchblade. So if we succeed by 2 or more, we deal +1 damage, and we will commit these 2 cards to the skill test to increase our combat value by +3. So this brings us up to 5, and no, this brings us up to 6, and we can spend we can spend 1 more resource. So we are at 7 against 2, so we have an advantage of +1. So we can use hard knocks and spend 1 resource to increase our combat value by +1. We get +3 from the committed cards, and we have a combat value of 3. So it means 3 plus 4 is 7, and the ghoul minion has a combat value of 2. That means we have an advantage of +5. And if we succeed by 2 or more, we deal +1 damage as we use the switchblade. So the Elder Sign would now be nice to have. What did we draw? Okay, we have a cultist marker. So this instructs us to reveal another token, but if we fail, we have to take 2 horror. Okay, and we have drawn a -2. So the test is successful, but did we succeed by 2 or more? We were at 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 minus 2 is 5. Yeah, so in case we actually succeeded by 3 or more, so not only deals the switchblade deals +1 damage if we succeed by 2 or more. So this went out perfectly, really nice. So we deal 2 damage to the ghoul minion, which is enough to defeat him. And we also trigger the effect on opportunist, because here it says commit only to a skill test you are performing. If you succeed by 3 or more, return opportunist to your hand after this test instead of discarding it. And the test succeeded by 3 or more, so we can keep this card in our hand, and we discard the unexpected courage. Man, we are very lucky today. That was really good. Okay, so with our second action, we will move to the cellar. I hope our luck continues like this. So the cellar has a shroud value of 2, comes into play with 2 clues per investigator, and the following forced effect: after you enter the cellar, take 1 damage. So we place our mini card, investigator mini card, to the seller, and it comes into play with 2 clues, 1, 2, and we have to take a damage which we will place onto Leo. Okay, then we have 2 more actions left, and we will use our third action to investigate, spending 1 supply on our flashlight. This reduces the short value of the seller to 2. We have an intellect of 3, so we have an advantage of +1, and we will commit 1, 2, 3, would make 4. And we could do, okay, let's first only commit these 2 cards to increase our intellect by +3, and this would bring us up to 7. We test against, no, this would bring us up to 6. I want to, okay, so we should actually, we can also add opportunist to the skill to have a total of +4 from these 3 cards, which means we are at 7, testing against 2, which is a difference of +5. Okay, and we have drawn a -3. Perfect. So the test was successful. Did we succeed by 3 or more? We were at 7, -3 is 4. We tested against 2. No, we succeeded by 2. So this time we cannot keep opportunist in our hand. However, the test was successful, and as we committed perception to the test, we are allowed to draw a card when the test is successful. So we put those cards in the discard pile, draw a card, and we get 1 more clue, the last one we needed. We now do not have to investigate anymore. And okay, we have 1 more action left. We have 2, 4, or 5 cards, and with our last action we will draw a card. Okay, we have on the land Skids unique card. Perfect. Okay, so our turn ends. This time we have an enemy in play, and we have a forced ability from the agenda 3A. So each unengaged enemy moves one step to the parlor. So first he walks to the hallway, then we can move to the upkeep phase, ready all cards, draw a card, gain a resource, and at the end of the round we place 1 doom for each ghoul enemy in the hallway or in the parlor, and we check our hand size. We have 2, 4, 6, 7 cards in hand, which is fine. In the Mythos phase we place 1 doom on the agenda and draw 1 encounter card. Okay, we have the Icy Ghoul. So both of the elite enemies are engaged with us, and the Icy Ghoul spawns in the cellar, so he is engaged with us. So we can place him here. Okay, then we would continue with the investigation phase. So we have some options here. We have a very strong hand. What can we do? We can avoiding is not a good idea. Okay, we can play on the lamb. So this is Skids unique card, which is an event that costs 1 resource. And it says fast, so it does not take an action to play this card. Play after your turn begins. Until the end of the round, non-elite tier enemies cannot attack you. So both of these enemies are strong, but they are not elite. They are normal enemies, so we cannot be attacked by them, neither by attacks of opportunity nor in the enemy phase. So we will use this opportunity. We can freely move back to the hallway, and even though they cannot attack us, they still engage us. So the Flash Eater is also engaged with us now, and we could move to the hallway, but we would have to take 1 more horror. But the good thing is we can delay the agenda to advance this turn. We would have 2 more. Take a horror, 2 more actions. We could draw cards. I would say we can do that. So we will move. We could also move to the cellar and take 1 more damage. I think this is the better idea. So we move back to the cellar. In this case, we have to take 1 more damage. We can place it onto Skids. And now both the enemies are in the cellar. They are no more in the hallway as they are engaged with us. Then we have 2 more actions left. After moving back to the cellar and falling again from the stairs, hurting us. This time us, last time Leo fall, when I remember correctly. And we have 2 more actions left. For our second action, we will draw a card. Okay, we have backstab. So now we have the 2 cards we needed to defeat the Ghoul Priest, which is sneak attack and backstab. And all we need now are resources. And because of that, we'll just take a resource and end our turn. So again, enemies cannot attack us. We are on the lamb, I don't know how to pronounce that. So the enemies cannot attack us in the enemy phase, so we can move straight up to the upkeep phase. Radio all cards. Radio all cards. Draw a card and gain a resource. We have no enemies in the hallway or in the parlor, so at the end of the round we check our hand size. We have 2, 4, 6, 8 cards in hand. Then we discard our unique card and we move to the Mythos phase. We place 1 Doom on the agenda and draw 1 encounter card, which is Obscuring Fog attached to your location. Limit 1 per location. Attached location gets +2 to the shroud value. You can basically ignore this card from now on, as we will not investigate anymore, but we attached it to the cellar. Okay, back to our turn. We now have 2 enemies ready and engaged with us. They are just waiting for us to move so they can kill us. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Then this happens at the end, so we have 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Okay. So for our first turn, for our first action, we play Elusive. This is an event that costs 2 resources, has the fast keyword, so we do not have to spend one of our normal actions to play this card. We can play this during our turn at any player window. This card reads, disengage from each enemy engaged with you and move to a revealed location with no enemies. So we have to pay 2 resources to play that card. 1, 2. So now we can disengage from both enemies and move to a connecting location. So we move back to the hallway, and these enemies are no more engaged with us. Both of them are now in the cellar for the moment. And we have 4 more actions in our turn. We have our 2 cards to defeat the Ghoul Priest. 2, 4, 6, 7. So we can basically take 4 resources and end our turn. So we spent our 4 actions to take 4 resources. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we would now move to the enemy phase. However, none of the enemies are hunters, and the forced effect on the agenda cards triggers after the enemy phase. So after the enemy phase, they would move to us and would be engaged with us back again, but we will not get attacked by them as the enemy phase is already passed. And then we can move to the upkeep phase, ready all cards, draw a card, and gain a resource. And at the end, so before the round ends, we can advance according to objective 2A. It reads, when the round ends, investigators in the hallway may as a group spend the requisite number of clues to advance. We are in the hallway, we have the required number of clues, so we spend 3 clues to advance. Then we can read the backside. And here we are instructed, or the card tells us that we were able to remove the barrier, reveal the parlor, put the set aside Lita Chandler into play in the parlor, and spawn the set aside Ghoul Priest in the hallway. Okay. And the third and final card on the egg deck says, if the Ghoul Priest is defeated, advance. So we are allowed to reveal the parlor. So here there's a resign action. We will ignore the parlor for the moment. We have to bring in Lita Chandler, which is an ally. She was hiding in the parlor, into the parlor, and we have to bring in the Ghoul Priest in the hallway where we currently are. So he'll be engaged with us. He has a combat value of 4, agility of 4, and 5 hit points per investigator. He has the Hunter and Retaliate keyword, and whenever he attacks, he deals 2 damage and 2 horror. So he would also be engaged with us. So then the round would end and we have to place 3 doom, so 1 for each ghoul in the hallway. 1, 2, 3. So we have 6 out of 10. Then the round officially ends, and in the Mythos phase we place 1 more doom on the agenda. We now have 7 out of 10, and we draw 1 encounter card. And we have Rotting Remains. We have seen this card before. So we have to do a willpower test, difficulty of 3, and we will commit no cards to the test. We will just reveal a chaos token. In the worst case, we take 3 horror. That's fine. We will try to win this game, this turn anyways. Okay, and we have drawn a -4, so we failed the test by 3, and we have to take 3 horror. 1 will be placed on Leo and 2 on Skids. And then we move on to the investigation phase and try to defeat the Ghoul Priest. So for our first action, we will try to evade the Ghoul Priest. We have a agility of 4, testing against the agility of 4 from the Ghoul Priest. And we will commit 1, 2, 3, we will commit these 3 cards to the test to increase our agility by +4. We have also opportunist in here, so if the test succeeds by 3 or more, we can draw it back to our hand. And we have manual dexterity. When we succeed, we can draw a card. So here we have already +4 on our agility, and we will spend 4 resources using hard knocks. 1, 2, 3, 4. To further increase our agility by +4, this is a total of +8, which brings us up to 12. And 12 against 4 makes a difference of +8. So we would cover all chaos tokens other than the auto fail token, and we would be successful. The highest modifier is -8. Okay. What did we draw? And we drew a -1. Okay, so the test was successful by 3 or more, so we get opportunist back to our hand. And as we committed manual dexterity, we are allowed to draw 1 card. Okay, we have another copy of backstab. So I just realized that this was not a good idea. Oh my god, so 3 is 7, 4. Oh my god. Anyways, okay. So first of all, we evaded the ghoul priest, so he's exhausted. Cannot attack us anymore, even if we fail. Next. Next we will attack the ghoul priest playing backstab. This is an event that costs 3 resources and has a fight action on it. This attack uses your agility instead of your combat. This attack deals +2 damage. So if we are successful, we will deal a total of 3 damage, and we have to pay 3 resources in order to play this card. And this would be our second action. Okay. So then we will use hard knocks and spend 8 resources. 2, 4, 6, and 8 to increase our agility by +8. So we again have a difference of 12 against 4. So we have an advantage of +8 again, and we would succeed as long as we do not draw an auto-fail token. All the other tokens are covered. Or maybe instead of 1 resource, we add opportunist. So if we succeed by 3 or more, we can get opportunist back to our hand. Okay, let's draw this one. And we drew again a -1. Okay. So the test was successful. We deal 3 damage to the ghoul priest. I mean, as long as we don't draw the auto fail token, we are fine. And we can keep opportunist in our hand. So we have 2 more actions, and the ghoul priest has 2 hit points left. Okay, for our third action, we will try to evade this flesh eater. He has agility of 1. We have an agility of 4, which means we have already an advantage of +3. We try to evade him, and we will commit opportunist. So we have 3 with opportunist +4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we spent a total of 4 resources to increase our agility by 5 with opportunist, which is 9, against 1 is a difference of +8. Okay, and we have drawn. Okay, we have this special symbol, which is a -4, and if there's a ghoul enemy at our location, we have to take 1 damage and 1 horror. So we would have 5 damage and 5 horror. Okay, but the test succeeded by -4 means we are set to 9 minus 4 is 5. Yeah, it succeeded by 3 or more, so we keep opportunist in our hand. So also this ghoul enemy. Okay, and the reason we did that, the reason we exhausted the Flash Eater is so that we can play Sneak Attack. And Sneak Attack is an event that costs 2 resources, and the card reads: deal 2 damage to an exhausted enemy at your location. This can also be the Ghoul Priest. He has 2 hit points left. But before we can play this card, as this is not an action card, we get attacked by each ready enemy. And if we wouldn't have exhausted the Flesh Eater, he would also have attacked us. And we couldn't take that much damage. As these 2 are exhausted, only the Ice Ghoul is attacking us as a part of an attack of opportunity before we can resolve the effect on Sneak Attack. So we initiate playing this card, spending 1 action, paying 2 resources. Now we are getting attacked by each ready enemy, which is the Icy Ghoul. He deals 2 damage and 1 horror when he attacks. So 2 damage and 1 horror. We can take all of it onto Skids. So we are at 4. Take 1 off, place it 3 instead. Yeah, 7 here. And 1 more horror would kill us. So we would have to place it on Leo the Luca. The question now is, do we still get the action from Leo? But we could also wait, because this becomes very confusing. It's very interesting. I have to reread it, how Leo de Luca interacts when taking the last action and he is defeated before the action is resolved. But we can avoid this by just spending 2 resources and using Skid's ability. So during your turn, spend 2 resources. You may take an additional action this turn. So we would have 1 more action, even if Leo de Luca is defeated by the Icy Ghoul. So we place 1 damage, 1 horror onto him. And we would have to take 1 more damage on Leo. I hope I did it correctly. I don't know how much damage we had on him, but we wouldn't have died. So Leo de Luca would die. We would lose 1 action, but we can still use, we could even take 1 more action if required with, or even 2 with Leo's ability. So we survived the attack of the Icy Ghoul. Leo de Luca is discarded as he is defeated. And with Skid's extra action, we can now resolve the effect on the event and deal 2 damage to an exhausted enemy, which would be the Ghoul Priest. So we now have 5 damage on him, which is enough to defeat him and win the game. Yeah. So the end got a little bit interesting. I will read that for you guys and add it to the comments. If we could have still used the final action on Leo while he is defeated during the process of resolving the effect of the card. However, I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. This was the gathering on expert difficulty with Skids O'Toole. We played with cards only from the core set and restricting us playing only with rogue and neutral cards. So the highest difficulties with that is actually getting the first clue here, because you only rely on your flashlight and on the cards that you can commit to the skill test. For example, if we would have played with the Guardian, we could have taken evidence to our deck and get the clue by defeating an enemy. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you have any comments, let me know, and see you next time. Bye bye.